Please welcome a most thoughtful leader who I believe has served brilliantly in the most demanding assignments in peace and war, General Martin Dempsey.
Well, I know that was very polite, but you really ought to wait till you hear what I have to say before you decide if you're going to clap or not. I'm back here for the second year in a row, and honored as much as I was last year. Last year I came not fully appreciating, I think, what this event means for our Army. And my guess is you probably don't completely appreciate what this event means for our Army, but you are the best of the programs you represent, 273 or so of our best and brightest young men and women of America who are about to join, in some cases have already been part of the United States Army, and you will now do the nation's calling to protect us and promote our interests around the world. And you volunteered to do so at a time when you knew with full conviction that we would place you in harm's way. And so that makes you a very extraordinary group of young men and women. I was working out this morning watching SportsCenter. I apologize that it wasn't the McNeil-Lair report or CNN or something, but it was SportsCenter, and they were waxing eloquent about the NFL draft next Friday, speculating about where Bradford and Clausen, McCoy, and Tebow would end up to quarterback their NFL teams. And it occurred to me that I was about to come over here and speak to young men and women who will quarterback the most important teams that our nation will field in the next 10 or 15 years. So for those of you that are here admiring them, let's give them a round of applause. That wasn't it didn't sound very much, but it was heartfelt. There's not many of us, actually. So, when I graduated from West Point in 1974, of course, that's now 35, almost 36 years ago, but think about the number 35. So if I backed up and thought about being a senior at West Point, or in your case, a senior in ROTC program, if I backed up from where I started, 35 years would have been the class of 1939. And if you think about what someone, from your history lessons, if you think about what someone experienced from 1939 to 1974, what I've experienced from 1974 now to 2010, it can seem almost overwhelming what you might experience between 2010 when you graduate and 2045. Which is when you will be where I am in my career. But there is a certain continuity to it all. Let me read something. Let me read something here to you. Superintendent, I take pleasure in greeting you as colleagues in the service of the United States. You will find, as I have, that service never ends. In the sense that it engages the best of your ability and the best of your imagination in the endless adventure of keeping the United States safe, strong, and at peace. You will find that technique you acquired can be used in many ways for your country. For the Army of the United States has a record of achievement in peace and in war. With us, the Army does not stand for aggression, domination, or fear. It has become an elite corps of highly trained men and women whose talent is great technical skill, whose training is highly cooperative, and whose capacity is used to defend the country with force when affairs require that force be used. But it has also been made available to organize, to assist, and to construct when battles have to be waged against the more impersonal foes of disaster, disease, or distress. And that was the part of the address that Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave to the class of 1939 at West Point, anticipating, of course, what he thought they might face in their next 35 years of service. By the way, I'm not signing you up for 35 years of service, but just in case, it makes the point, I think. Let me read something else to you. If you Google, not that any of you ever use the internet, but if you do Google from time to time, Google 1935, 1974, and 2010, and listen to the similarity in world events. 1939, Germany occupies Czechoslovakia. 1974, U.S. exits Vietnam. 2010, responsible drawdown in Iraq and surge in Afghanistan. 1939, earthquake in Chile kills 30,000. 1974, cyclone in Australia in Darwin kills tens of thousands. 2010, Haitian earthquake kills more than 200,000. 1939, terrorist bombing in Coventry, England. 1974, terrorist bombing in England and jetliner crash due to terrorism in Greece. 2010, foiled terrorist plot in New York City. 1939, USA recovering from the Great Depression. 1974, Franklin National Bank collapse. 2010, U.S. recovering from Great Recession. 1939, NBC televises the World's Fair opening ceremonies. 1,000 viewers used 200 experimental television sets. 1974, 20 million people watch All in the Family, rated the #1 show in America. 2010, three-dimensional televisions hit the market. 1939, a Boeing B-17 purchased for $238,000 each. 1974, a Boeing B-1 bomber purchased for $283 million apiece. 2010, the MQ-1C Sky Warrior Predator purchased for $100 million apiece. 1939, 15 million landline phones in the United States. 1974, the Japanese begin testing the cell phone. 2010, 285 million wireless phones in the United States. And by the way, our population is just over 300 million. That kind of continuity is predictable. You will face security threats. The Army will be asked to do things that we can't even conceive it being asked to do. And that kind of continuity in the pace of technological change is also predictable. I predict you and your soldiers will learn differently in your career, far differently than I learned in mine. So let's talk for a minute about what's new and what's not new. What's not new? Because that's as important as what is new. What's not new? We live up to the traditions. We work to earn the trust and confidence and the honor of service by the American people. We are a service, values-based organization. That has never changed. That will never change. And as we pass the mantle to you, you must commit to ensure that it never changes. A couple of names to remember and, again, to potentially research. Rick Rescorla. If you've read the book We Were Soldiers Once and Young, or seen the movie We Were Soldiers Once and Young, you'll know that Rick Rescorla is the soldier pictured in his full battle gear with fixed bayonet on day 2 of the Battle of the Ia Drang Valley in Vietnam. And the picture on the front of the book is very telling about how he feels about his mission that day. He's been asked to go into the brush to help determine what the Vietnamese army was about to try to do to him. And the picture, if you look back at it, and I encourage you to do so, is the picture of several kind of things in tension with each other. There's his commitment to the mission. There's fear. There's incredible pressure of being a leader in combat leading men. And there's great courage.